Okay, Tyrus, we'll go ahead and take a look at your motion here. I went ahead and paired you up with 10 Lincecum because for a guy your size, I think he's really a good example, a good model for you in terms of how to get everything you can out of your frame, get everything, really maximize power in your delivery to generate maximum velocity. So go ahead and just take a look at your motion here a couple of times. Watch out. One thing I think you've got going for you, you do really well, is you've got good rhythm and tempo in your delivery, good balance. So all those things are good. What we want to work on is how are you going to maximize velocity by really getting things moving towards home plate more aggressively, getting them moving more efficiently that way. So we'll go ahead and stop here. Now I'm just going to kind of watch you coming out of your leg lift. Now one thing you're doing, you get really gathered up well over your back leg, really well, you're nice and balanced. And coming out of your leg lift, you just watch. One thing that's really important in your delivery, especially for maximizing velocity, is getting early momentum and getting things moving towards your target. And if you see here, basically you're coming out of that leg lift, coming down with that front leg and then out, but you haven't really gained a whole lot of ground towards your target. Your head's basically still right there over your back foot. Now what I want to show you is how Lincecum does this, how he comes out of his leg lift. Number one, if you watch him going into that leg lift, he's already started building momentum towards his target. Right there, you can see how much ground he started to gain. While he's leading with his hips, he's not leading with the shoulders. So that's really key. But if you look at his back leg, you can really see how much ground he's gained towards his target. He's not still stuck over that back foot. So that's the first thing I want to point out there. Then, if you kind of watch you come out, right when that front foot, that front knee rather, crosses your hip, I want to just look at that position where you are right there, because even right there, your head's still pretty close to being over your back foot. You still haven't gained a ton of ground there. If you watch Lincecum again, when he gets to that position, when that front knee crosses his front hip, right there. All right, you see the difference there? I mean, basically, how far out he's gotten. If I draw a line from his head down to the ground, how much ground he's gained to home plate. I mean, that's really the key, is getting your hips, your center of gravity, that mass moving towards home plate earlier. And the earlier you can get that moving towards home plate, the more powerfully you can get that moving towards home plate, and the faster you can begin moving down the mound. That's going to increase velocity in your delivery. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that up. But you see what he's basically doing by creating that early momentum. He's basically defying gravity in this position. If you look at Lincecum, how far out he's able to get. And he's being strong with that back leg, but because he generated that early momentum, that's how he's able to bust out off of that pitching rubber so powerfully. We'll go ahead and take you out to front foot plant now. And so as a result, I mean, you're nice and clean and everything, but as a result, you're basically just kind of stepping out to front foot plant. When that front foot hits the ground, if I draw a line right at your back foot, right there, or your back foot, when that front foot hits the ground, your back foot hasn't really moved. Okay, and if I clear it up now, you can see how it's still pointed towards third base, and your hips, if you look at your hips and your shoulders, they're still, your chest and your hips are basically still pointed towards third base. We go ahead and look at Lincecum here. First off, I mean, look how he's, from this position, that's where he drives with that back leg and really explodes off the pitching rubber. So if I draw a line at his back foot here, okay, and just watch how he explodes off the pitching rubber. See how much ground he's gained into front foot plant? That's huge. And then the other thing I want to show you is at front foot plant how much hip to shoulder separation he has. So his belt buckle is basically facing home plate here. His hips are squared up to home plate, but he's still closed off with his shoulders. And you can tell that the hips have opened up because his back foot, his heel, is now facing second base. That tells me his hips are squared up to home plate, but you can look at his shoulders, they're still basically closed off to home plate. So that's a lot of hip to shoulder separation, or torque, that sort of elastic energy, that twisting power, that's really important for velocity. So when that front foot hits the ground, that's when he braces up with the front leg, and all that elastic energy gets unleashed, and everything whips around and catapults over his front leg. Alright, so that's really critical right there. So then I'm going to go ahead and take you out to ball release. And you do a pretty good job. One of the things I focus on is if guys are collapsing that front knee, you do a pretty good job stabilizing with your front leg, and you brace up well right there. So that's not a big issue. What I do want to point out though is just how upright you are at ball release. If I look at, if I kind of ballpark an angle here, let me clear it up, it's a little off. If I ballpark an angle here at ball release, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 degrees. If I go ahead and do the same thing with Lincecum, if I take him out to ball release, do the same thing, kind of just clear it up, kind of just ballpark it. He's somewhere, 40 degrees maybe. So there's about a 20-degree difference, though, which is a big difference. I mean, if you look at where he's releasing the ball, that's going to do a couple of things. He's getting that extra forward trunk tilt, which gets more catapult effect, increases velocity. Number two, it gets him out closer to home plate at ball release, so he's releasing the ball closer to home plate. So he's, number one, increasing actual velocity and speed on the pitch, but because he's releasing it closer to the hitter, it's increasing perceived velocity, and the ball is getting on the hitter that much quicker. And basically every foot that you can release the ball closer to home plate is equivalent to about 3 miles an hour difference to the hitter's eye. So if you take a look at his delivery versus yours, the main thing is how explosive he's being with his lower half and his stride, getting things moving earlier towards home plate, which increases his stride length, which also increases velocity because he's being so much more powerful, and then that forward trunk tilt, which again increases velocity, and all of that is also allowing him to then release the ball so much closer to home plate, which increases that perceived velocity. So it's also getting on the hitter that much quicker. Whereas with you, you're being less explosive, you got less forward trunk tilt, and then you're also letting go of the ball farther from home plate. So you've got the decreased velocity versus him, and then you're also giving the hitter more time to react. So if you can work on those main things in terms of just getting things started towards home plate earlier, getting that early momentum and getting more powerful with your stride, and then getting that extra trunk tilt to then really catapult over your front leg and release the ball out front, those two things will increase your velocity and also get the ball on the hitter quicker. So I think it can make a big difference for you. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, you gotta learn new motor coordination, and then you need to be able to move powerfully through those movements, and that requires a good strength and conditioning program. But I think you seem like a pretty focused and dedicated kid, so I believe you can make those adjustments. So I just say keep working hard, and I hope this video helps. And if you have any questions at all, you shoot me an email or you can give me a call anytime, and I look forward to hopefully working with you again soon.